Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We've got just one ring that we rule them all. Hope you'd remember your towel. Get your Ulu feathers and your middle guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the Geek Tank. To the Geek Tank. The Rocky Mountain Geek Tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
And this is Geek Tank Late.
Your litigation-sized podcast.
I forgot to put a different background on.
You're driving blood.
Look at my work background, everyone.
Can't you fix that with like one little?
How well that's working. That screen's working pretty well. I don't think I ever get that good a green screen sort of effect. I always end up with part of my face missing, or
Well, that's just you.
That's just me. I always have a problem with my face
This is
missing.
the problem. Like, if I put a background on, it has to be compliant with copyright. I can't just like go online and just grab something that's like a star picture and put it up. That doesn't work.
You could definitely grab a star picture because most of
could.
NASA releases those with Creative Commons license.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good.
NASA is a government agency, so they actually just release everything pretty much. Whee! Have fun. I mean, it's not all that way, but 99, like anything off of APOD usually can be,
There you go.
That kind of thing.
If you moved it over just a little bit more, it would look like a really ornate headdress.
There you go.
Nice. Hey, who's this girl in our podcast?
I know, we've got this weird girl now. I don't know.
Hi.
Welcome back. We missed you.
I know.
I miss you guys.
Although we will have to razz you just a little.
I mean, yeah, no, it's been a really chaotic 2020 second half part 2 for me. Oh my God. And things are about to get more crazy in December and January. So I will be gone for that as well.
Well, we if you haven't heard the news, this is our last show for our last official Thursday show for December. There may be little, here's how you make pumpkin muffins, or here's how you blow up.
And
bad
we
guys.
will have a couple of more of the Star Trek Adventures games before the end of 2020. So there's that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a strange schedule. So the hopefully that'll be wrapping up too, to correlate with the end of the season. And
A lot of chaos. This year overall has just been a lot.
someone's transmitting.
I'm transmitting.
Who would it be?
I don't know. Is it you? Was it you? Did you do it?
Probably me. It was probably me. It's always me.
Yeah. So we figured since 2020 has been such a light and fun-filled year, we would end on something serious, like a lawsuit.
I mean,
Oh,
we
you mean like
started serious,
Arecibo falling
so-
apart? I mean, that's sad. I didn't mean to derail everybody there. So
Well, you
It's all good.
they should have had it made in America then.
right. Did you see that Brent actually posted just a little while ago and tagged me on this one, but they actually had video when that center section of Arecibo fell.
Yeah, a drone shot it.
It wasn't just the drone. I mean, it was the mounted camera on the side of the mountain watches it fall down. The drone was on the actual rig.
Dude, that's so sad to see, though. I
Yeah.
knew that, we knew that wasn't built to be there forever, right? So
No, but it was on my bucket list. I
right.
have, places that I need to be going in my life, and Arecibo was one of them.
On the bright side, you can now fit it in a bucket.
Yeah, now I can put it in a bucket. Although that is still 900 tons worth of equipment that fell in Arecibo.
That's a lot.
That's a big bucket.
Uh,
So that center core fell, and that was so sad. And I'm still sad, and I'm going to be sad for weeks.
I think I saw it from our mutual friend, Catherine. Who posted it. So
Yeah, it was. I mean, I knew the hurricane had damaged it, but they were like, well, we can fix this, it'll be fine. Yeah, and then it just like all fell apart, and they're like, I guess we can't fix it.
Should have used Gorilla Glue.
Right? That's totally what was going to happen was Gorilla Glue. Yeah. But I'm astonished they had a drone up there when that cable went, No, they're not going to rebuild it. They're going to just tear it up.
Yeah,
there's no point in them rebuilding it,
Cheaper to build a new one.
It was built in 1964. So, I mean, it's an old... I mean, if they're going to redo something like that where they have just hollowed out a section of a mountain to make a dish, it's going to be better, and they're probably going to place it somewhere else.
Better, faster, stronger.
Yeah. I mean...
We can rebuild it.
Something probably not in Puerto Rico where it's going to be like hurricanes all the time.
Yeah, maybe not in Puerto Rico. That would probably be the best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somewhere inland, like I don't know, maybe someplace that's super stable. Like I don't know,
right on the fault line of Florida.
Flex tape, yeah, right on the fault line. That would be a better place, is right on the San Andreas Fault.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see them try and fix that with flex tape. Actually, I would love to see that. Please send me a video of you trying to fix
that's
an entire thing on a fault line with flex tape.
Mm-hmm.
No, Brent needs to fix the fault line in California with flex tape.
Mm-hmm.
As Jet Reno would say, you can fix that analogy with flex tape too.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we're going to talk about something
less chaotic.
Less chaotic.
I don't know if it's less chaotic, actually. Honestly,
it's more chaotic. So one of my favorite authors of all time is Alan Dean Foster. He has always been my favorite. I was into the Flinks and Flux series when I was a teenager, and it was like my gateway to harder sci-fi. And then I found out he wrote the adaptation for Aliens. He wrote a ton of Star Trek adaptations.
And for the animated series, Star Trek animated series.
That was a different, but yes, he did. I mean, but he got
into novelizations. I mean,
he did novelizations of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like every time there was a big blockbuster sci-fi, he did the novel for it.
Gotcha.
So like he did Terminator, and he did Aliens, and he did gosh, I'm trying to think of, I mean, all the blockbusters. I don't know,
Star Wars,
but
I think,
and he did some Star Wars, but I mean, the guy is prolific. Oh, get out! He's
and for those who
7 zillion books.
And for those who don't know, most people are familiar with when you take a book and turn it into a movie, they have to change it into a screenplay. So you write the screenplay version. So this is kind of the reverse process, because you have an author who is given a screenplay and has to go in and turn in all of the film and stage direction to where it reads as a novel. Mm-hmm. So it's not just copy and paste. It does require some tactical thinking, some creativity in changing it and making it read interestingly.
Right.
And so there is work and creative IP that is put into that kind of work.
And Foster would go and find stuff out.
Yeah, he's one of the guy who would like tie all those beautiful little threads in, right? The ones you weren't expecting.
Right, because there's like little bits that he put into the Star Trek the Motion Picture novelization, which he co-wrote with Gene Roddenberry. But because they worked together on it, and really, honestly, I think he wrote it, and then Gene Roddenberry just said, I co-wrote it so he could get half of the income on it, because that's what Roddenberry did.
Like the theme song.
Right, like the theme song.
What did he write? The woo?
No, there's actually words to the original Star Trek
song. Oh, right, there are words.
So that he could get half the royalties.
Like, I love what Gene Roddenberry made, but like half the crap that he pulled is not okay.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, you kind of have to, you have to remember that all of us are human beings. And we all have our good points and our bad points. And we've had 50 years to analyze every last little bit of things that Gene Roddenberry did. All the good things, all the bad things, and all the stupid things, and everything.
All the chaos.
And it's okay. It's fine. I actually kind of have empathy for him. In the 60s, TV didn't give you any royalties. There were no kickbacks. So he had the awesomest IP known to man, and he wasn't going to get a dime off of it, and he was going to die poor. I totally get it. I get it. This is before George Lucas figured out how to play the deal of merchandising. You know, you just made a show and then it vanished, and then you died in poverty. And that was the way television worked. NBC made all the money off of it, and then you died, and they didn't care. And so I kind of get why he did some of these things, because there were no producers unions back then. So speaking of royalties, let's get us back on target. Speaking of royalties, one of the things that Alan Dean Foster did was he wrote for Star Wars, and he got the license for Lucasfilm. And he actually, because he was in the EU, the extended universe of Star Wars, he was writing a whole bunch of characters and things and bits and pieces of the universe that we now kind of consider sort of canon-esque. There are pieces of that universe that exist. Some of it doesn't anymore.
Because a lot of it's been retconned.
Right, because they just keep, and the movie people really, their argument in both franchises is sticking to canon is fine up to having to be forced to read 40,000 novels. So it's okay to expect the Star Wars guys to have watched every one of the Star Wars movies and even Clone Wars and plausibly Rebels, but it's not very fair to make them have to read all 60,000 novels that have been written too. So there's a certain amount of that where both franchises decanonize the novels.
I mean, you can say that from like the first film in the original trilogy to the second, right? Because they thought they were getting one movie. And then all of a sudden Luke and Leia are sisters. Like originally love interest, now brother and sister. It's a mess in those big universes, right? And you can say that Star Wars was the like first big pop culture phenomenon because people were going to see this movie like 15 times in theaters, right? So it makes sense that some things would be a mess. And thankfully, this writer was able to kind of take everything and kind of order it in some way that made sense.
Right. And so we ended up with Alan Dean Foster writing a number of novels. Well, okay, that's fine. Usually when novels are being sold, the writer gets a certain amount of royalties. Yeah. Here's where the problem comes in.
Dun, dun, dun.
Disney bought Lucasfilm, and with it, the rights to everything. But they didn't apparently buy the royalties to everything. So they now are selling Alan Dean Foster's books, but he doesn't actually get the royalties for them. So this is part of this. Now, Foster has put out, Foster went to go talk to them about this, and they started out by saying, you need to sign an NDA before we'll even sit down and discuss anything with you. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement, which says that no matter what we talk about in this meeting, you will not talk about it. So the whole idea is that they're trying to lock him into him going into a meeting and them saying, we're not responsible, bye. And if you fight us, here's a whole bunch of lawyers. And he's then locked by an NDA not to go to social media and tell all of us that that's what happened. So that's why it's a no-no. Yeah. Usually we don't put NDAs on the first meeting where they tell you no. Because then you're locked by the NDA to not get a lawyer, not go to court. In other words, they lock the win.
He actually mentions this in his letter that he wrote to them. I'll read it, and I'll try to read it really fast because since it's by Alan Dean Foster, that would be fun to read.
I was going to say, we love Alan Dean Foster, but yeah, he is wordy.
So it's related to some of the books he had written that they haven't paid him royalties on that they own is 20th Century Fox's the first 3 Alien novelizations, and Lucasfilm, the novelization of Star Wars and Splinter of the Mind's Eye, are just some of the books that they're dealing with. So he writes, "Dear Mickey, We have a lot in common, you and I. We share a birthday, November 18th. My dad's nickname was Mickey. There's more. When you purchased Lucasfilm, you acquired the rights to some books I wrote. Star Wars, the novelization of the very first film. Splinter of the Mind's Eye, the first sequel novel. You owe me royalties on these books. You stopped paying them. When you purchased 20th Century Fox, you eventually acquired the rights to other books I had written, the novelizations of Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3. You've never paid royalties on any of these or even issued royalty statements for them. All these books are still very much in print. They still earn money for you. When one company buys another, they acquire its liabilities as well as its assets. You're certainly reaping the benefits of the assets. I'd very much like my minuscule, though it's not small to me, share. You want me to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, before even talking. I've signed a lot of NDAs in my 50-year career. Never once did anyone ever ask me to sign one prior to negotiations, for the obvious reason that once you sign, you can no longer talk about the matter at hand. Every one of my representatives in this matter, with many, many decades of experience in such business, echo my bewilderment. You continue to ignore requests from my agents. You continue to ignore queries from SFWA, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. You continue to ignore my legal representatives. I know this is what gargantuan corporations often do. Ignore requests and inquiries, hoping the petitioner will simply go away or possibly die. But I'm still here, and I'm still entitled to what you owe me, including not to be ignored just because I'm one lone writer. How many other writers and artists out there are you similarly ignoring? My wife has serious medical issues, and in 2016, I was diagnosed with an aggressive variety of cancer. Variety. We could use the money, not charity, just what I'm owed. I always loved Disney, the films, the parks, growing up with the Disneyland TV show. I don't think Uncle Walt would approve of how you are currently treating me. Maybe someone in the right position just hasn't received the word. After all these months of ignored requests and queries, that's hard to countenance. Or as a guy named Bob Iger said, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. I'm not feeling it. Alan Dean Foster.
So that's therein lies the rub.
Mm-hmm. So the argument that Disney is using is that the company that previously owned the rights to the books sold the IP, but not the debt.
Yeah. So is the previous company supposed to pay that debt? And if so, how would they even go about it?
Right. And I'm wondering if it's one of these things where they're trying to set it up so the previous company can say, oh, we no longer own it. It's not our problem.
Imagine what could happen at this point in time if you had this rigged up like this. So you've got the ability to, as a company, all you have to do is jump in, right? I'm company A, and Chelsea and I are actually the same company, but Troy has been working for me for a while, and you know what? I don't want to pay him anymore, so I will sell company A to Chelsea. Well, Chelsea now owns it, doesn't have to pay Troy. I still, because we're both in the same company, I still reap the benefits of all the things that Troy did, but no longer do we have to pay for Troy.
Well, and when you think about how tight and strict like the music industry is, like you play over 15 seconds and you get a slap, right? Because they're protecting their artists. But under the Copyright Act, it says we could play 1 to 15 seconds and get away with it, kind of a thing.
Right.
Or if things like that. With books, it's harder, right? Because the literary industry is so difficult anyway. These writers have to go through publishers and agents to process their work, just like singer-songwriters do in a way, but writers aren't as protected, and sometimes they're having to fight to publish their own work or find a publisher that will take them, somebody who will support them, and then they've got to go on tour and give all these talks and do all these things. So in a way, you have this person who is representing your brand, and in this case it's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have somebody who is upset about Star Wars because you just totally screwed him over, whether it's the old company or the new company. And that's the big decision here. And this has to go to court, right? Because you would think that somebody has to pay the debt regardless. Even if they have the IP, do they get the royalties from those books that were created before they own the IP?
Right.
What's weird is you have to wonder what's at stake for them that makes them decide that this is a hill that they want to die on, because it's not that much money. So it's got to be something. It's got to be something bigger in the precedent that they're trying to set. Like I was saying, if they can get away with it, then that means they set themselves up to be able to get out of all kinds of royalty contracts down the road.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing isn't really what concerns me a lot is not Alan Dean Foster in this instance, although he does. It's Marvel.
Oh, because Marvel
we have
Disney too.
Hundreds of thousands of comics over there. And the big thing that worries me there is what happens when they decide all of a sudden to take X-Men and the Avengers and everything like that and move them over to Disney.
Well, we did
and
see,
they just ship them out of Marvel.
Right. So we did see a small portion of that with Spider-Man when Sony was like, hey, you got to give Spider-Man back, because they were sharing IPs, right? They sent him over, allowed them to use that IP for that amount of time, and then sent him back. When Sony said we want Spider-Man back, Tom Holland, the actor who played the most recent Spider-Man, called the executives at Sony crying his eyes out saying, I want to play Spider-Man. I had this contract to play Spider-Man. Please let me do this. Why is this happening? Because the biggest thing with Sony is they weren't making enough money, right? And never mind that I don't love capitalism, and never mind that I don't like big corporations anyway at this point, especially Disney. I have big problems with Disney right now,
Right.
with the whole Mulan shenanigans.
Ah, yay. Take a shot. She said shenanigans.
So it's just like, you know, these companies just want more and more money without having to spend money. I'm sorry, that's not how capitalism works. Like,
No.
You're using this against yourself. So Disney needs to step up and probably talk to a bunch of their lawyers and see what's going on. And if they need to pay this man, because they probably should, because they're probably collecting royalties right now. And Star Wars is a huge IP for them. That's why they expanded to The Mandalorian. That's why, you know, we were getting all these extra movies that then got slapped down, but then got put back up, I think, question mark? Maybe? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be a mess regardless. I can't wait to see the court docket, because that poor judge is probably going to be sassy as hell.
I would be.
So who technically owned Star Wars before? Was it Lucasfilms and then Disney?
Lucasfilms owned it all the way from it was 20th Century Fox right in the very beginning.
Okay. See, that's the problem, is you had that breakdown.
Which is one of the reasons why Foster was involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because Foster was with
20th Century Fox
writer for 20th Century Fox. So 20th Century Fox would make a movie, and Alan Dean Foster would get the script, and he'd have to hack out a book in 2 weeks or whatever, something ridiculously fast, which is why he's so prolific and so quick. Because he had to roll out 350, 400 page novel.
I mean, he knows the system, right?
Right, or whatever.
He knows the system. He knows the formulas. It's just like I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but Chuck Tingle. Chuck Tingle just pushes out books because they're formulaic and they're fantastic. Mary Higgins Clark did that with mystery novels for Forever and a Day, right? You have these people who are specialists who absolutely understand this needs to happen in these types of novels. So just give me the plot points. Boom, done. And I will add character development here and there, and I'll add this piece of lore and build all these things in. These take specialists and these take historians and kind of what would you call them? Like caretakers of lore, right?
Right.
He's got to keep all that stuff straight and still give you a usable novel that people will buy. He's basically like a professional fanfic author, but also that lore historian and that lore curator smashed into one. So if anything, he should probably make more than he does for keeping all of that stuff straight, right?
Yeah.
And being such a prolific writer, for him to come out and say this you know, in the court, in the den of social media, right? Like, here's an open letter to Disney about what's going on. Obviously, mediation has failed there, correct?
Well, I mean, he's sent a whole bunch of information to deaf ears.
Yeah.
Like he says, and I think he's right. I think he's hoping that they are sick enough that they'll die, and it won't be a problem.
I just don't know if Disney's going to back down easily.
No, they're going to drag this out until Foster and his wife pass away, and then it won't be an issue anymore.
Oh, that's fair, because Foster is older, and then it's up to fans to continue that fight if they want.
Foster's not only older; he's got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And well, does he have kids? Is he worried about his legacy? I mean,
I think right
like,
now he's just worried about paying his medical bills.
Fair. So that's another added stress, is the cancer on top of everything.
Right?
That's horrible. Like, Disney, you want to wreck your image, like, as if you haven't already enough. You're trying to drag out a legal battle of a man with cancer who you don't want to pay when you make millions. Never mind that you fired like most of your Disney employees so that your CEOs could keep their salaries from the year before. Yeah, they took a pay cut, but not that big of a pay cut, which is why I just don't do Disney Plus, which is why I have no Baby Yoda stuff, even though he's cute. I haven't seen The Mandalorian, and I don't want to, because I can't support a company like that. Just like I don't support Ubisoft. Just like I don't support, you know, other companies who have all these allegations against them that are in court fighting legal battles for sexual harassment and the crunch and all this other crap. You vote with your dollar.
Right.
So, and with books in particular, I wonder kind of what the breakdown is with the amount of money. You know, how much goes to the agent? How much goes to the publisher? How much goes to the editor? How much goes to the writer? How much goes to the screenplay people who weren't really involved, but their screenplay was used as a basis, right? Like, is he making dimes on a dollar anyway and just please give him the damn money? Or is he making most of that profit because he's so prolific?
Who knows?
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
But even if he was making 100% of the profit off of it, that still can't be very much to Disney.
Yeah.
Compared to all the other stuff. So it's got to be either this is a huge misunderstanding and they really don't care and something's just passed them, or this is much bigger than the money that's involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, and why is it only happening to him at this point?
Well, it's that we know of, because he's a big enough name and a big enough fan base that when he complained about it, word got around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're covering it right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
right now.
Let's say Guy had a deal where he was making 5% off of every book sell of something he wrote that Lucas had bought, that stayed under the radar and never got turned into a movie, and then Disney bought it. And if his fan base was something like 1,000 to a few thousand, nobody would know except for those few fans.
Yeah.
So there could be hundreds of smaller writers and content providers that are being just as screwed as Alan Dean Foster is in the situation, and we just don't know it.
And if they are, I hope they come out in force, because if you can bring a big joint lawsuit, things will get done, hopefully, right? Especially right now. This is like the worst time to be in a lawsuit ever. If you need a jury, it's not possible right now. There's no way to secure a connection to jurors and have them stay home safely. Whereas if they have a judge who's asking to mediate between the two sets of lawyer teams, that is possible via video conference. And a lot of judges have actually been commended this year for making sure to push forward to make sure that justice is still happening, you know? So
but it's hard. I mean, where are you going to get I mean, can you just put all of your jury on Zoom? You know,
I don't know.
How do you do that?
Like, I don't even know how bad crowdfunding is this year compared to other years, right? Because how many people are unemployed right now? I'm on like my second to last unemployment check, and thankfully I got 3 part-time jobs, but just in the nick of time, right?
Right.
So, you know, who else is scraping by that can add like a couple dollars to this legal fight in the middle of a pandemic where a lot of people have lost their jobs as well, or aren't making money from big corporations who failed them? Maybe some people in travel who got screwed over as well. So it's a freaking tough year for this to happen, and I hope I don't think it's a misunderstanding with Disney, honestly, from my point of view. If he's coming out to say something, I'm guessing he's already done everything he could, because he's been in the industry for how many years with little to no conflict. Guy's got lawyers. He probably has, like, it's probably a requirement in his contract, I would guess, to protect him, right?
And like I said, I think the big thing that we're dealing with here is, I think the truth is they are looking to see if they can set a precedent on this. And I really do think this is not about ADF at all. This is about Marvel.
Well,
I'm trying to remember. In Splinters of the Mind Eye, is that when Leia began her training as a Jedi? I feel like it might have been after that, but I'm not sure. I get it confused with the others, but I know that in the last movie, they kind of made reference to it with the very young CGI'd Carrie Fisher in her training. And I was like, hey, that's from the book that we never actually saw in any movie type thing. So it's I kind of remembered that being one of them that I always thought they should have turned into a movie.
It would have been great. I mean, Carrie Fisher's daughter is still alive, so hopefully they could do something there.
Maybe.
But the other thing too is, like, you have this big corporate conglomerate, right, where Star Wars is bigger than it ever was, and as soon as Disney bought it, that's when they started doing like the Lando Calrissian film, right, and then Rogue One, and those films I felt were okay on their own, but I wish they had been more fleshed out. Even the modern trilogy, I wish was more fleshed out, because I sat there confused for the first new film. Like, what do I? I'm excited. I don't know what for, but I'm excited.
There's too many cooks. You had too many cooks.
There are definitely way too many cooks, and having like a huge corporate conglomeration like Disney, you can bet that there are a billion suits in there saying, "Well, can't say this, might get sued. Can't say this, might get sued," and then you get yelled at, and you do get sued, and they don't fix it.
Well, now that we started on this path, if he does fail, if Alan Dean Foster does fail to legally reclaim what's his, or if I should come at it the other way, if Disney successfully retains the IP without having to owe him any money, they could turn the Splinter of Mind's Eye into an animated feature or live action feature and pay him nothing for it.
Yeah. And that would be even worse, because they could probably split it word for word, paragraph for paragraph, and just screenplay it out and pop it out.
Speaking of making money, let's take a commercial break.
Right? That's actually kind of what I was wondering of whether we should do. Is like, can we go to commercial? Let me go on ahead.
Good segue, Troy. Guy made it awkward, but you tried.
Just like marriage.
Right.
I mean, come on. That's the way we've always been. I mean, think about it. It's true.
Geek Tank is sponsored in part by Geekway Homes. If you're a geek and you need a home, contact Geekway Homes at www.geekwayhomes.com. Also, we're sponsored by Kieran Games. If you need games, this is the place to go. Contact Kieran Games at kierangames.net. And finally, we're sponsored by Hexacon 2020. Coming up, MLK Weekend, Hexacon 2020. We're also sponsored by people like you. If you want to help us out, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Foxblade. Thank you. Now back to the show.
Oh, good. For a minute there, I was really worried that it was going to like roll out, and I was like, what are you doing?
Update on the convention scene. I know. I don't know if Justin wants me to announce this, but they were looking at working on WhimsyCon. It looks like Hexacon might not happen, but WhimsyCon might later.
According to their webpage, Hexacon 2021 would be happening in January, but I get the feeling that that's still way too soon, that's probably not happening.
Well, they were going to go all virtual last time I talked to Destin.
Then that would happen.
We're working on a lot though. So I don't know if everybody else knows, but the reason I've been so busy is I'm part of the Savage Worlds official event crew, which Dustin brought me in on, along with Chris Landauer and Chris Fox of the Rocky Mountain Savages. So we're working on events for Pinnacle Entertainment, which I've been doing, like Halloween and that Q&A I posted on my page and stuff like that. But we've got a lot happening in January, so I don't know if Hexacon is gonna happen in January, even if it's online. Last I heard, WhimsyCon was probably the next go ahead in like March, I think. Don't quote me on it. I'll post updates as I have them, but that was like the last thing we talked about.
March is definitely more possible than January as far as conventions go.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're
we
optimistic.
do have vaccines in the works and they're rolling, but they're not there yet. They're not ready yet.
Well, and you have to remember that like it's a slow rollout with these vaccinations, right? So like my boyfriend's mom is probably going to get one first because she's an infectious disease controlled nurse. So she and her husband, who is high risk, they're probably going to get it first. Tyler and I will probably get it way later down the line because we're at that low end of the totem pole on risk, which is fine. But yeah, conventions, God, it's been a rough year for conventions.
Yeah. Well, I think a few conventions have definitely learned a lot of tricks about how to do stuff on the fly. And it'll be interesting to see how much of that carries over to when conventions start up live again. Because there are a small, comparative to the amount of people that make it to a convention, there's a smaller faction of people that love conventions but can't always make it.
Oh, yeah.
And if they had a virtual option, I'm sure they would take it. And even if it was like a real nominal fee of like $5 or $10, if that's the difference between paying, $150 for an airplane ticket to come out.
Oh yeah, and a hotel room and food and transportation. Like I've talked about this a lot recently. Like my anxiety is getting worse in quarantine, unfortunately, which I'm working on. But I love virtual conventions because I can tune in on my brain schedule. I'm in the comfort of my home. I have my own space for it. Thankfully, I have that space. Not everybody does. But like particularly with Halloween, when we did that for Pinnacle, a lot of people were like, I wish this would be a normal thing once a year, because then I can go and play games at a convention and not have to be there because I have a disability or I have anxiety or I really have to stay home because I'm very sick, that kind of thing. So hopefully the convention world listens and we can see each other a little more online, but also in person as well. Maybe they can figure out a way to make it, a dual event or have the convention live one week and then the online the next. Who knows? I think 2021 is where we'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, it's I know Gen Con did a ton of stuff online for 2020, and from what I've heard, a lot of it went over really well.
Yeah, and Worldcon was online this year, even though it was supposed to be in like Germany or something like that. And Worldcon has been going and traveling for so long. I'm so amazed at what they were able to do, and I'm grateful, and a lot of people are too. Just because at least we got those little pieces, right? Since we couldn't physically attend convention.
Somewhere on our website, we have a much older interview that we did with a couple of what's veteran con goers, and one of them was a Worldcon attendee, and went to a bunch of them. And listening to those two women talk about what they went through having to
Cass, and who was the other gal? Yeah.
I don't the other woman I had only just met that night before the interview.
Right.
So
sadly we don't remember her, not because of anything other than the fact that
we're stupid and don't remember names.
Yeah.
So
has nothing to do with her. She was awesome.
I forget that guy's name
right
all the times too. So
I never forget your name, Bob. It's fine.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what direction conventions go and what they stick with as far as the technological level goes. We'll just have a bunch of segways with iPads on them driving around the hotel.
Well, and it's funny because like technology has definitely helped and hindered us, right? Like we are able to get together, thankfully, on technology, but it's not the same. Being on a lot of phone calls and trying to talk to everybody that I normally talk to during the day online has been a lot more emotionally and physically tiring and exhausting. It takes a lot more for me for some reason. I just don't get that same energy, right? Because people do have energy when you're sitting around talking to them and you can catch their emotion and catch that excitement. Being online it's just not the same.
Mm-mm.
It's a good substitute, thankfully, for when we definitely can't get together, but
yeah, if we wouldn't have been able to do Geek Tank like this the past few months, I think I would have gone more insane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
Donald's saying that too. I mean, I'm with Donald. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've started broadcasting every day is to hopefully people join me, and if you're feeling alone, join me. You know, we can at least hang out together
And feel better about ourselves by looking at how bad you are.
Exactly. That's exactly what you should do.
Okay.
Duh.
Like Tyler and I didn't realize until we went into quarantine, this is the most quality time that we've had to spend with each other. Like this entire time that we've been dating. We've been dating for almost 5 years, and this is the most time we've spent together. And we're still doing good. So don't drive each other crazy. And some people are finding they can't do that.
Yeah, we knew, I mean, there have been jokes about that. Though I've got to say, I'm actually grateful too, because I've been stuck with my family this whole time, and I'm still actually pretty pleased and happy with my family.
Meanwhile, Troy's house is like half under construction.
Yeah, I know.
We're having to add more to it because we just decided there wasn't enough space.
So you're gonna lock your kids in the other part. Mm-hmm. So I have a question. I was looking at the picture, Troy. Are they going to move that electrical box?
That box does nothing. Yeah, cool. They've already actually the new fuse box is mounted on the outside of the addition.
Okay.
So the thing that you're seeing in the picture is the dead one that used to do stuff. They just haven't gotten to demoing that part yet.
I was just wondering because it looked like they actually cut a hole in the floor, and I was like,
right.
You need to leave the fuse box standing in the middle of your living room. Don't touch that, kids.
I'd have to create a life-size warp core around it if we did that. Don't hit that with a stick, and we'll have a warp core breach.
Right?
Why did you leave it there, just encased in glass, for that to happen?
We do that so that you'll just to see if you're stupid enough to. Right. Yeah.
You know, I have an interesting thought. I wonder because now that I'm kind of in the tabletop RPG kind of world with work, if Alan Dean Foster is having this problem, I wonder if the writers of the role play books might have this problem as well, because those came out before Disney bought everything. I mean, that D20 system for Star Wars came out, I think, around the same time as our Star Trek system originally, the FOSTA system. Is the FOSTA system the old one or the new one? You're going to have to.
The FOSTA system's that older one. That's from the 80s.
Yeah.
So there's actually been 3 different ones because there's Lost Unicorn Games version, and now we're on to the Modiphius system, which is the one that we use right now for our game. So
I wonder about those IPs as well. Like, does Disney consider not paying those role playing?
So when you start dealing with role playing games, things get a little fuzzy, and it gets difficult. And I think, and this comes from, I had a buddy who worked for Decipher, and Decipher had Star Trek's license for a very, very small time just before Lost Unicorn. Okay. And I feel like I was talking to him about that. And the feeling that I got from him was pretty much we just do our work and then we go home at the end of the day. They pay us our rate, and then we don't think about what happens to it down the road.
Gotcha.
Because of course it went through we have the license. Oh, we don't have the license. Whoop, we got the license again. Oh, we don't have, and sort of that kind of juggle.
I know that happens with Savage Worlds as well. Yeah. That's kind of a roller coaster in its own right. Like, you have these people creating things as well. I mean, writers of RPGs do a lot of work, right? With what we call the crunch. I think I can say what we call now because I've seen the crunch, and that's all like the crunchy underlayer that makes everything work. It does take a lot of effort. writing the fun stuff is great. Like it's super creative, and getting to write like the in-betweens and the adventures and things like that is awesome. And then as long as you have the license, you're good to go. What
Right.
happens when that license is lost, or what happens when that's transferred over as well? Are those people getting, screwed over to a point? Because
I think depending
Well, I
on
mean,
who they are, they don't have rights anymore. Like the very first owner, if I'm reading this right, I remember this when it came out because the stats for the bounty hunters were just overpowered. In 1987, West End Games got the first licensing right to make the Star Wars role-playing game.
okay.
And it's changed hands a lot. And currently, I believe it's Fantasy Flight owns the current Star Wars RPG rights. I think that was back in like 2016, 2018.
So if you lose a licensing, can you still publish and sell your books, or are you done? Or are they good because you licensed them at that time and they're already done and there are no updates?
Well, I think it's that edition or that version.
Mm-hmm.
I think how it is. So you could still probably sell the one that you have, but you couldn't create new content for it.
Okay, so
would be my guess.
you're still making money in a way. But what if Disney comes back and is like, yeah, that IP's mine?
No, that's exactly what happens. That's actually what happened to FASA. So when FASA went out of, they lost the IP to Star Trek. They lost it right after the first season of Next Gen.
Mm.
So they lost it in 1988. And when they did, they weren't allowed to do any more on it. That was it. The books that exist up to there are the end of it. And they're not allowed to create anymore. They weren't allowed to go back and work on it anymore. When we play FASA, we're playing off of 30-year-old books.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we've got are those 30-year-old books. And I still collect them because I love the artwork. The artwork inside those books were really, really exceptional. So the artists, it's like the same thing. I also think about this with Robotech, which Palladium had the rights to, and then they're losing it. They're in the process of losing it, even as we speak, because Big West, and it's actually not to say that there's like a reality to this, but back in the 80s, anything that was animation from Japan, they just treated like dirt, and the Japanese treated it like dirt, and now it's gold. And so Japanese companies are turning around and grabbing these rights back. And so
no. You didn't want this. Now it's popular and you want it. That's a big problem, right? When things come into demand, what happens, Among Us is super popular right now and has been for like months through quarantine. What if some bigger company says, I'm going to come snatch your IP rights?
Yeah, what if
Scary.
20th Century Fox, owned by Disney, comes back and says, hey, you effectively made the thing, and so we own it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of weird rights because there is a writers union per se, because there's one for screenplay people, right? And there's the Screen Actors Guild, which is all the actors and their tiny fragile egos. And then there's like the
guilds are a good thing.
Right?
There's also
like, you have all these unions and guilds, right? I would hope that one of these guilds would be able to back him up.
Sadly, there's no guild for prose authors, and there's no guild for comic book artists. Which is one that happens. That's one of the things that. So you missed us having this discussion with, because we actually had a guest on. Who we talked about that. He's a comic artist in Hollywood. And he's writing right now with Image on Star Trek, which is what we brought.
Right.
And we had the most phenomenal discussion with him about the fact that there is no guild for it. There's no union.
But is there no guild because they don't want to make one, or are they not allowed at this point? Have they been?
It keeps becoming a problem. It gets screwed up every time because they tried and they keep trying, but something goes wrong with it. And the truth of the matter is, big companies don't like unions because unions have power. And the truth is that a lot of the things they were saying, that he was saying, this was Dave, who was on our show a while back.
And he's agreed to come back on to go into more detail over comic book writers.
We'll talk about this one later. But Dave was saying that, the biggest problem is that the big companies don't like the unions, so they're helping break them up and keep them
Oh
broken.
no, like why would they? Because it makes them less money. They have to dole out things like freaking medical care and health benefits and mental health benefits and days off. And,
Well, they've got to stop
And
buying artwork for $5 a page. Right. I mean, it takes me 2 hours.
pay people what they're worth.
And I'm pretty fast, and it takes me 2 hours to do a
Like,
page. $5
come
a
on.
page is ridiculous.
Yeah, like $5 for 2 hours is stupid.
Right? An hour.
That's not even making the minimum wage qualification, which is why we have that for a reason. But like
Right.
sometimes corporations find their way around these things in these sneaky little ways. And so I really do hope that they don't get this IP and that they have to pay royalties, because they'll find their way around and then exploit it for forever. And everybody will be like, well, shouldn't we fix this? And like, it's been that way forever. Nothing we can do. And that's when you get exploited workers, exploited artists, exploited creatives who, like, this is where you get the starving artist crap, because artists are working for that $5 an hour minimum wage. It's bullshit. It should not happen. Freaking pay people. Shut
And
up.
what bothers
Pay
me
me.
is, I'll still hear people say that they think that the free market would work just fine. And I'm like, the free market's working right now and screwing me over and artists like me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actively destroying me, even as we speak. And artists and authors, this is what the free market does.
I mean, it comes down to capitalism, right?
Well,
like, if I can get the rights,
they're fine, but it needs to have a counterpoint. It needs to have a union, and that's what needs to happen. And you need to not let unions die.
I just hate that unions are the solution. It can't be you as an individual going into a place saying, hey, this is my work. This is my background. This is what you are going to give me because this is what I'm worth. Here's what I require. Sign this contract to work with me.
Well, it takes everyone that does the thing to somehow all communicate. So let's say someone wants to hire an artist to draw a logo for them.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, but I think like the going rate for a graphics artist for an hour is somewhere between $25 to $50 an hour.
Yeah, depending on the artist.
So let's say something super simple, and Guy can knock it out in an hour. So it's like a $50 project. And then I come along, not knowing Guy, and I'm a so-so artist. I'm nowhere near his Guy's level. I did not go to college like he did. I'm definitely not qualified on the same level. But let's say I can crank out a piece of art that the customer's happy with. Me having no knowledge of anything, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I'll take $15 for it. And what I don't know is, one, I should be doing better than I'm doing. And two, I'm way undercutting people who do this as a job. And I should be charging more. And, it doesn't have to be as much as Guy, because it's definitely not worth as much as Guy's work is. But if you don't have everyone on the same page to at least have some concept of how they're scaling and paying, you're going to find people who are breaking it. This is why you still get musicians who will do gigs for free.
Yeah.
Because they think that they have to do that so they can get their name known. So they're being taken advantage of. And meanwhile, there are artists who should be getting paid to go do the gig, but the place doesn't want to pay someone because they can find someone to do it for free. So if you have a union and everyone's working on the same page, then they can all be educated to know, hey, stop doing free gigs.
Right. And that's a big problem, like that whole undercutting, right? Or like, this is why IP rights are so important anyway, is because first of all, if somebody's like taking your work and using it for sale, it's not okay. This is why trademark and why copyright and why IP are so tight. And when we make additions to them, they are very specific additions, right? Everybody should be on the same page. Everybody should be working together to coordinate, to make it better. Like, it is always like the corporations versus the people, I feel like. It's just, it's insane, right? And I know in particular, I've been reporting a lot of IP stuff lately because I have that Turn Inside Out little octopus plushie, right, from T-Turtle that's like happy and then sad. I have seen those everywhere, and I've reported those ads because they don't own that IP. I have reported a billion Among Us Etsy pages. I made this myself. I did not buy this. I made this myself for my own personal use. You can do that under IP, but you can't sell it. Don't sell somebody else's stuff. And don't undercut other people just because you want to make it better, right? Like those octagonal shelves. I have somebody on my Facebook who's like, I want you to like my page because I make these now and I'm selling them at a 50% markdown compared to other people. You're undercutting people for their own damn design. It's not okay. I can't support it.
Was that an Among Us plushie that you made?
Yes, I made a little sus plush.
My kiddo's trying to make a board game version of Among Us. And I told him he needs to contact the people who made Among Us and ask them if they would like to go in together on a Kickstarter for the board game version.
Oh, you should.
So,
There's 4 people in that company now.
They have 4 devs now. It's amazing.
I just saw that post, and because I actually Among Us was like $3 or something on Steam, so I picked it up this last weekend, and now I own Among Us, which is fine. Totally cool because it's worth it.
There's no jump scares, which was your fear.
There's no jump scares. That's all I ask.
You just die sometimes.
And well, maybe. So anyway, I bought it, and now I'm getting all the news from the developer.
Mm-hmm.
Developer.
And they're finally doing well, right? Like they made this game
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, and now it's finally popular because of quarantine. And so they stopped working on their second game. They're reworking on the first game, and that game is $5. And maybe it is going straight to the devs, but maybe it's offsetting some costs for them, like an office, like equipment, that kind of thing. But you have to remember, like, that's their IP. Just because you made cute Christmas ornaments does not mean you own that IP. And everybody right now in quarantine anyway has a freaking Etsy shop, or
that's what I'm doing wrong. I don't have an Etsy shop.
It's just like what a lot of people did. And everybody was asking me, they're like, oh, when are you going to put up your soap, or when are you going to put up like sewing? And I'm like, no, because I make stuff for myself or for friends and their gifts. Like that's what I do when I create, right? That's what I want to do. I don't want to make this my job.
Because then it's not fun.
Then it's not fun. And then I have to manage my own IP. And then I have to get a lawyer. And then I have to spend all this money. So like these people who have already done that, let them have their damn money. They made the thing. Give them their money. It is not yours. It is their money. Give them their money. Please pay them. Like, oh God. Quarantine has got to me. I've become so like crotchety lately. I used to be like so happy-go-lucky, and now in like quarantine, I'm like, screw capitalism.
Chelsea.
Screw the Democratic Republic.
EA. Soft.
Oh God. 2 of the lead developers for BioWare just left, and I'm like panicking because Dragon Age and Mass Effect are in, and I'm like, I don't want them to get fucked up by EA, but it's gonna happen anyway.
That's our one effort. Don't say anymore.
Yeah, it's SPPG-13.
That's our one.
That's my one.
It's a good thing we only have 1 minute left.
No, like the biggest thing is get a union or stand together and please be paid what you're worth. Please never undercut what you're worth. I know it's difficult, but talk to people. You can always talk to people and say, hey guy, like, have you talked to other artists per hour what they make, and do you know what you're worth? I've talked to junior video editors, and supposedly most of us make about $20 an hour. So that's what I went for when I started doing video production, right? Like
that's still
I'm
cheap.
looking at you, Scott.
That's still cheap, by the way.
Yeah.
$20 an hour for video production.
It's on the cheaper end, but I'm still new to this. So
which you're pricing at your range.
Right. Because I'm learning, right? And as I go up, I'm gonna go up in price because now I'm more expensive. Because I have experience. Yeah,
I've learned from talking to a lot of artist friends, especially Guy. It's creative people undercut their own value.
It's a lot of us struggle.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, we struggle from imposter syndrome or like anxiety because we really want this gig, and so I'll do it for 15. No, don't do it for 15. Do it for 20. You are worth it.
And you end up with weird things like I do character portraits. They are $40. This is my price. And I have had people go, oh, I didn't realize it was so expensive. I'm like, it takes me 2 hours to do these portraits.
That's not that expensive.
And it's like, that's $20 an hour. That's not really a bad rate.
It's really not bad.
No, it's really not a bad rate. And it's it's one of those things, and it's like I shouldn't have people go, "Oh, can you do it for cheaper?" No.
Yeah,
Screw you.
what I've found, and
If
this,
I don't have these jobs in there, I do my comic book
Mhm.
for me. This is my stuff. And
so the way I found to explain it, because I do this with my miniature painting, I tell them not how much the end price. I always start with, I'm giving you this many hours of work, and this is my price per hour for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, what you would say is like, I charge $15 an hour. These character things take 2 hours, so it's $30 for one of these at this level.
Yeah.
If you want a stick figure, that's $5, and it will take me like 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
I actually, for a while there, I was offering
The stick figures.
the chibis, because they only took me like 5 minutes to make.
Oh my gosh. I should get you to make a chibi of me then. Yeah. I need more stuff. I just like my big thing too is this holiday season in particular as well is to support independent artists and support independent craftsmen, right? People who make paintings because I don't have a lot of art in my life and I want more art in my life, or people who do things I can't, right? If I can't sew a jacket, it's going to take me too long, and I would rather pay somebody for their time on that. And if it ends up being a $400 jacket for time and materials, fine. I'm going to pay that because first of all, it's probably made of materials that are going to last better than what comes out of a store where things are mass produced out of plastic. And B, that person's an expert who's going to make it tailor-made to me, right? Like people who, make comics. Oh, I want a comic for my boyfriend of like our life for Christmas. You can hire a comic book artist for that. Or, oh, I want this portrait done by this photographer. Pay your damn photographer. If you want a video done, pay your damn videographer. These people went to school for these things. And these artists, unfortunately, are struggling in COVID.
Yeah.
Why not just pay them what they're worth? They're doing something for you.
To add what I was saying before, the good news is that right now I'm in a position where really my job is to watch my kid. That's my key primary job, and we've set our finances up. We're not rich, but we are now just about this far above water. So I don't need to take commissions in if you're going to want to demand a $5 commission. You know what I mean? Like there once was a time where I had to do that. I had to take the $5 commission because I needed the money.
And that's rough.
And so I'm in a better position of power right now because I'm not being strangled. And that's part of the problem is that these artists, when we're strangled, you end up doing as was once told to me, I'll pay you $10 an hour and you'll take it because you have a family to feed.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude. And that's an attitude out there they'll wait until you're struggling, until you're starving for air, and then they'll
grab you
a little bit of oxygen and say, do the thing for me.
Yes, because they know that you would rather do the thing that you studied and trained for the price that you'd get flipping burgers, because it's the thing you want to do. Even though you're getting burger flipping prices, you're going to stick with the thing you know.
And sadly, that is an actual truth. I would much rather edit video, which I have a degree in, rather edit video for $10 an hour, because at least it's better than working at McDonald's for $10 an hour. You know what I mean? But now I don't need to work at McDonald's. I don't need to work anywhere. So I am not going to work for $10 an hour. I'm going to go back up to normal rates.
Yeah.
Which is more $50 to $70 an hour.
It would be nice to be well above water instead of barely above water.
Exactly. I shouldn't have to struggle. So, I mean, the truth is that I am preparing. I'm using this time wisely to prepare my comic to be a sellable IP, to prepare a world where I can do character designs and say to all of you guys, hey, you want your character drawn, and have that as a rig. So I'm preparing for that.
Yeah,
we're getting there.
So we ended up here because the Alan Dean Foster versus Disney thing is still ongoing, so we don't have a conclusion for it. We only have.
I like what Brent was recommending earlier. Was it Brent or was it Donald? I don't know. One of you guys.
Get him. I think it was Brent, to ask him to get him on as a guest.
I think that we should reach out to Alan Dean Foster. This is the time. He doesn't have to fly.
He might not be able to discuss that if it's an ongoing legal battle.
Well, also it might
It may not
be,
in a legal battle yet.
He might not.
This is what's beautiful about it.
but he
You
might
don't
be. We can ask, but
Yeah.
he might be one of those people who prefers the privacy.
That
But
too.
it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask. The
And he can
biggest thing,
wear
like,
that.
it's so frustrating. Like, just please pay artists what they're worth, and please stop undercutting people so that we all can make a living wage, because we all deserve to be able to live in this land of the free and the brave with American dreams. We should all be able to attain that goal, and it's not happening right now. And some people would say, oh, but that's communism if we all live in the 2-story house with the 2.5 children and the white picket fence. But some people just really want to live comfortably. So pay them what they're worth and pay
And
for them
I
for
would
what they've
understand that if Disney was struggling. I could understand
They're
that.
not struggling, no.
But none of these big
They're
companies
so
are struggling.
freaking popular. They open their own streaming service. Christ's sake.
One of those things.
But we struggled because our
one of those
CEOs had to
things
take a
that
pay
people
cut and
don't
make their
grasp
last year's wages. Screw
is
you.
the size of the bank accounts that we're talking about here. Disney could literally pay each and every American person $20,000 a year for like 12 years.
Well, and the descendant of Disney, of Walt, his niece, I think, she is pissed at the company. She does not like what they're doing anyway, period, with their money. I have the easiest solution. I mean, my solution is pretty easy. It's just a little drastic. I just say eat the rich.
Yeah, I mean, because like we
You
talk
can't
about
spread your wealth, I'm gonna eat you.
Jeff Bezos has enough money to pay each and every one of us $50,000 a year.
He could end world hunger and sniff.
Yeah, and understand that he could pay each and every American citizen $50,000 a year and not feel it for 5 or 10 years.
That's a lot. And we do have a way to fix this like wage disparity. It's just that our government chooses not to. So just eat the rich.
Honestly, an extra 50 grand would put me in a position where we could fix our fence and yada, yada, yada.
I'd be out of debt. Period. Point blank. End of story. And have some savings. I'd be out of debt.
And we'd have some savings. We'd be able to afford medical care. Yada,
You could have a hospital emergency and not go bankrupt.
Right? I could get COVID and have to be on a ventilator.
Right.
And survive that.
That's living the dream.
Right. Is that living the dream now? Heck it, I'm moving to Russia.
Oh my God, I can't believe that that's so real. This is such a real statement.
If I wanted to suffer, I might as well live in Russia. Christ.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. So people don't. Yeah, Donald saying he's making very little as well. I mean, I don't make that much. Luckily, my wife does, but I don't.
I'm heckin' lucky that I moved in with my boyfriend's parents, because if I was trying to live on my own unemployed, I would have starved.
Yeah. Well, guys, it is 9:08. We should probably wrap this show.
So you're doing Trek next week?
We're doing Trek on the 10th. And
that is next week.
It's the people who didn't leave or who stayed in the universe. You just left a mess for Richard.
Oh, right. Richard's got to solve that. Okay.
So now Richard and Nate are going to have to figure out what to do with the Nilcav. So they're going to. So you left a little bit of a mess for them to clean up.
It's okay. The boys will be fine.
They'll be fine.
So rolling into to next year, next season-esque, or whatever you want to call it, we are
until school's out.
Yeah. So we are looking at some kind of change, but we haven't figured that out yet. We have to talk and figure it out. So hopefully in January we'll have a more consistent schedule or something. We'll figure it out that we can plan on for when Chelsea comes back in February.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, even streaming, I've been pretty chaotic. I usually stream on like Tuesday nights because it's the only night, and if that, it's very sporadic, like every other Tuesday. So, hopefully
have you been tagging the Take a Geek Break on the Rocky Mountain Geek Tank page? Because
I haven't. I was having a lot of problems with Facebook. Actually, I don't know if anybody else has been having problems, but like it privated some of my posts. It didn't share some of my posts. I wasn't getting messages for like a month. So Facebook has been really not helpful. No, I use OBS to stream to Twitch, and then I just share on Facebook from my Facebook app or from my browser. And so like the last month I've been having some problems, and some other people have been saying they've had some problems as well. Maybe it's because I'm a little too political sometimes. When I say things like eat the rich, and Facebook's like, please don't eat me, and I'm like, you're a robot, I'm gonna eat you.
I've got high cholesterol. I probably shouldn't be eating rich.
No, and especially Facebook.
I love nice, rich, fatty meat. So,
Hey, baby. Sorry, I had to go there.
I think you hurt her. You may have broken her.
Hooray! My job is done here. Well, yes. Happy holidays to everyone, and
happy holidays. Please stay well and stay warm. And
We'll
I
see
will
you,
try to cross post. So if I remember.
Okay, everybody. That's all the time that we have for today, and it's probably a good thing. So,
Wow, getting
I've
sent
been
on my
Guy.
own show.
okay. I've been Troy.
And I've been Chelsea.
And this is Geek Tank.